Different states adopt different types of foreign policies according to their own needs. Some states prefer to involve in the affairs of other states, while some states prefer to remain isolated and they don't get involved in other states or in the affairs of other states. And some states even um, involved in the domestic affairs of other states and in regional affairs and in international affairs, while other states prefer to remain isolated. All that depends on the internal needs, the national interest of the state. So the basic or the major component that determine the foreign policy of state is its national interest, and according to the needs of their national interest, states either adopted imperialist policy or they remain isolated and they adopted an isolationist policy, or sometimes they adopted a national universalism. Today we are going to start our discussion on the foreign policy choices, and our first topic is the imperialism. Different scholars used imperialism in different senses. In past, scholars used it for highly concentrated centralized government with dictatorial power. But after 1870, the term was used as an equivalent to colonialism. And in present century, it was further extended to include economic penetration and domination of markets and sources of supply. So in present century, imperialism means when a state is involved in the economic decisions of another state, we called it imperialism. In past, it was a direct source type of imperialism when one state was directly ruling on the other state. And in present century, the imperialism is more imperialism become more subtle and more sophisticated when one state controls the economic and political decisions of another state. Michael Brown, while defining imperialism, is saying that imperialism is a complex of economic, political, and military relations by which less economically developed nations are subjected to more economically developed. That is, if a more economically developed nation controls the economic, political, and military relations of the other state or system of the other state, that we called imperialism. It is a policy which aims at creating, organizing, and maintaining an empire. Charles defined imperialism in this way, that he's saying that imperialism is the employment of engine of government and diplomacy to acquire territories, protectorates, and or sphere of influence occupied totally by other races or people, and to promote industrial trade and investment. That is, if a state uses its government and diplomatic engine to acquire territories and protectorates or sphere of influence, if a state controls the territories and regions that were actually under a different race or under a different nation, that we called imperialism. Morgenthau is saying that the imperialism is the expansion of states' power beyond its borders. That is, if this state A, expand its power to control another state, if there is another state B, if state A expand its power to control state B as well, that's called imperialism. According to Suchman, the imperialism is the imposition by force and violence of alien rule over subject people. It's the same definition in another word. That's if a state controls another state, that's called imperialism. Or a state pursue to control another state, that even then we say that state is following an imperialist policy. According to Charles, imperialism is a projection externally directly or indirectly, of alien political, economic, or cultural power of one nation into the internal life of another people. That is, if a state project its power to another state and try to control its political, economic, and cultural system, that we call imperialism. Imperialism involves the imposition of control. If they, no matter if either that control is open or covert, direct or indirect, on the people of another government. Palmer and Perkin are defining imperialism. They are defining imperialism by that the imperialism pertain to a relationship in which one area and its people are subordinate to the another area and its government. If the people and government of one area is subordinate to another government and another people, that's called imperialism. In essence, imperialism always involves subordination and force and power. So imperialism is a power game. When one state uses its power to control the another state, that's called imperialism. In nutshell, if we will combine all definitions, we can define imperialism in a way that imperialism is a policy pursued by a state by which it tries to extend its political or economic power, or both, over another region. Imperialism actually involves exploitation of weaker by stronger. Imperialism is a in imperialism you can imperialism is the exploitation. It is a power game. It's something that you try to force another state to follow uh, your policies, or if one state is trying to dictate another state, that we call imperialism. Thank you for joining. Take care. Goodbye.